This is Saturday Morning Mysteries.
And we're your hosts, Alexis and Grace. Hello and welcome. Happy Saturday or whatever day of the week you are watching us or listening. We are your hosts, Alexis and
Grace.
And this is Saturday Morning Mysteries. And we are back to talk about one of our favorite shows, Darkwing Duck, the classic crime-fighting waterfowl who patrols the streets of St. Canard and other streets around the world. And today, Grace is telling us a story in classic true crime fashion about Darkwing Duck.
Well, thank you for saying that's a high praise. Classic true crime fashion. I was like, wow.
Yeah.
I don't know about that, but
that is your area of expertise. Nothing else. Didn't you create true crime?
I created crime, actually.
Crime.
All of it. There was none prior to me.
None.
The world was a beautiful place, and then
the end of 1992, crime was born.
Crime was born literally in December of 1992. Welcome. Everything before was not crime, but now it is.
Now it is.
Anyways,
enjoy.
So I am so excited about today's episode.
Okay.
Because it has to do with one of my favorite topics, a topic that I noted but didn't fully dive into during one of our Scooby-Doo episodes, because the Scooby-Doo episode was actually our first episode ever, had to do with a kidnapping that just happened to take place in a museum. Yeah. But this time, my episode is about art theft.
Yes.
Oh my God. Yes. Topic.
Yes. Okay. Go ahead. I'm going to interject. No, because you have to get out what specific art heist you're going to maybe tie into this. Your favorite.
I'm not going to talk about a specific one. I'm going to talk about art heist and theft overall.
Okay.
So let me hear what you're.
Okay. Well, in our very first episode, you mentioned that a particular actual real life art heist was your favorite, whatever that means for an art heist.
No quotes. Favorite.
Yeah, your favorite. Not trying to say that she's saying awesome job with this crime, you guys. No, just it's maybe
they did a good job.
Mystery. The Isabella Stewart
Gardner Museum in Boston, Massachusetts. Yes, indeed.
So mention of that museum came up at work for me one day, and I got to throw in the chat I've heard that was the greatest art heist ever. And everyone's oh my God, yes, there's a great podcast about it.
Yes.
I know, I'm so cultured, aka Grace told me about this. All of this in our very first episode.
I've been told as if from an expert.
Exactly. I actually talked with the people on that Boston podcast or I was one of the people they interviewed, or I interviewed them. Yes. Just from what I've heard, there's an amazing podcast on this wonderful art heist case that was never solved, that I literally only heard about 2 seconds ago from my friend and have never done any research on myself. I'm just taking her word.
They ask you all these follow-up questions and you just put the away message on Slack.
I don't even do that. I just leave the dots when I start typing and then just walk away. So it looks like I'm constantly typing. They think I'm typing a dissertation.
Drop our first episode. Scooby-Doo, and now this episode,
which literally mentions it for 10 seconds, and that's it. This is how I feel about that art heist.
And next.
And make sure you comment, share, subscribe, which, by the way, I will just also throw in, if you've made it this far in the video, drop us a like, leave a review, share, comment, subscribe, / if you're listening on the podcast, any of those things. We would love to have you join this little community with us so you can hear us be idiots like this all the time.
Yeah, all day long.
Act like we know things and show off to our coworkers when really we just casually talk about them in the context of classic cartoons.
Yep. But so this time, since we're an ever-changing and maturing show about how we feel like doing things and there's no rules, again, last time in our first episode, when I just briefly mentioned the greatest art heist of all time, and also just that I'm fascinated by art theft, but then I moved on to talk about the actual kidnapping situation. This time I'm going to tell you some different things about art theft, all of which are relevant for today's story. To begin, my resources for my art research included, quote, The Art Market, a Victim of Its Own Success by Marc-Andre Reynaud from UNESCO.
We also name dropped them in that episode.
Do we?
Yeah, I remember mentioning UNESCO, saying that they were going to be after Hyde or whoever, the night. Anyway, go back and listen to our first episode. Clearly, we're on top of it with this art crime stuff.
We don't even remember.
Yeah.
Ed Caesar's What is the Value of Stolen Art from New York Times Magazine in 2013. Cultural property crime thrives throughout pandemic, says new Interpol survey from Interpol.
Yeah.
And then from
not the band,
Supra,
the espionage or like investigative
intelligence agency.
Intelligence agency.
And then
cool
J.D. Supra's data analysis reveals some shocking art theft truths. So, Alexis, as one of the titles from those articles I just listed off gives away, cultural property crime skyrocketed during the pandemic. And cultural property crime is any aspect of the trafficking of paintings, sculptures, archaeological items, and library materials. In 2020 alone, basically almost 900,000. It's like 800,000, 700 something. So like, yeah, we'll just round up to like 900,000. Yes, like almost a million cultural property objects were seized from around the world.
Wow.
Yeah, over half of which were seized in Europe. And interestingly, during the demand for these stolen items kept up during the pandemic. Although the chances to steal them from sources diminished because of pandemic closures of museums and libraries.
Wow.
However, and I guess I just didn't realize this, and I usually when I think of like an art heist and art crime, I think of a museum, but illicit activities basically and theft from archaeological sites kept up during the pandemic, likely because these tend to be way less protected than museums, especially depending on what country the site is happening in, such as
Spring Break of 76,
Mexico,
Cinco, Mexico, aka
Mexico.
Somewhere outside of Mexico City in the ancient Aztec kingdom. Oh my god!
Exactly.
Let's do a Darkwing Duck Scooby-Doo crossover.
I think we are right now.
It's in the make. You guys are watching history listening to history being made. This is what it's like. This is how the sausage is not made.
Exactly, by anyone.
Yes.
So if you don't know what we're talking about, that's go back, listen to our Scooby-Doo series.
Yeah, we did an episode, I forget, maybe like episode 4, 6 or something like that. But just listen to all of our episodes. You'll find it eventually. It's in there. You'll figure it out. Promise you, it's there.
So according to Interpol, art theft has the highest dollar value globally, only after arms dealing, drug trafficking, and money laundering.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So it's like business. A big ass billion-dollar industry worldwide. Yeah. So stolen art comes from around the world, but I don't know, I kind of thought it was funny. Most of it ends up in Europe. Like
I laughed. I don't know if you noticed.
I saw you chuckle. That's why I didn't point it out, because I knew I was going to say it later.
Okay, cool. Good. We both find this funny. Not actually. It's ironic, maybe.
Yeah. It's, I guess just ironic. Like, the colonization continues.
Alive and well in the 21st century.
Thriving.
Yes.
So paintings and sculptures tend to be the most stolen type of art. But funny enough, I need to point this out, that this same Interpol article pointed out that, like, surprise, surprise, this is sometimes stolen, but it's very difficult to, quote, steal and conceal, unquote, furniture. And I just like pictured like people trying to like steal like couches and shit, because like that is in museums and stuff, is like antique furniture and stuff, but just like movers and like a U-Haul
hauling it out. They just like put a tarp over it. It's like a camo tarp. There's nothing here.
Keep looking.
Don't look.
You can see anything. Oh yeah, keep looking that way. That's not keep looking at us.
Or yeah,
clearly
I'm
not an art thief. Clearly it wouldn't go well.
You chose a good line of work.
Yeah. So I realized in doing this research that like there could be, and I'm sure there is, a separate podcast like just about art theft, not even like a specific heist, but there are so many fascinating aspects to it, from like how the crimes are done, like how does the museum get broken into, how the goods are moved on the black market and even the like open art market, the results of art theft. For example, I learned in this research that according to, or in the 2017 United Nations resolution 2347, the UN Security Council noted that the trafficking of antique cultural items like art from archaeological sites, museums, libraries, and archives is one of the sources of funding for things like ISIS in Iraq and Syria. So yeah, during some of like, you know, those conflicts, when you've heard, like museums being, are you laughing because of ISIS because your last episode?
Yeah, that, and also more so at first it was that, and then also I was like, this video has now been flagged. Money laundering and ISIS.
Hey,
CIA, I hope you're enjoying the video and the podcast.
Don't forget to like and subscribe, CIA. Hey,
share it with your manager.
Maybe you like boost our algorithm? Back in CIA, thanks.
I know you guys work with Google. Help us out. Anyway,
and including of just like the other fascinating things that could be their own podcast exploring the art heist world is how some of like the captured and caught art thieves try to defend themselves, which could actually be another desperate defense bonus content.
I see it intertwining.
For example, in one museum heist that the New York Times Magazine article mentioned, one of the lawyers for like a caught thief said that his client wanted to then like flip it and reverse it and sue the museum for negligence in allowing it to be so easily broken into. So he stole from the museum and then was like, this is your fault.
Excuse me, I just pointed out the flaws in your security system. Pay me.
I'm going to sue you. It's your fault it got stolen.
So many thoughts about that. Yeah, let's do that for a desperate defense one.
Okay,
I have a million thoughts about it. Save that one.
The case itself is so interesting and funny. I'll tell you all about that case.
Awesome. I have a million and one thoughts, and I'm not going to share them now because we have other business, but
we do. Okay. But you know, all of that is like a ton of work to create a whole separate podcast about like that's based on real facts. So instead, I'm just gonna keep finding art theft crimes to cover in cartoons until I've like eventually covered every aspect of art theft. And there are a lot of aspects of this that are relevant, like I said, for today's episode. But the two I want to tell you about is one, some of like the reasons and ways that people get into art crime to begin with, and then some information about stealing highly valued art. So, you know, there's tons of reasons why people steal art and cultural property and all of that stuff that we're not going to get into all that shit. But one of the reasons that I guess I didn't realize was a thing, but after I read it, I was like, oh yeah, duh. Is that sometimes people will, go steal this art, break into a museum and steal a specific piece of art, basically on commission for someone else.
Oh my God.
A really rich person is like, I want that. And they go out and hire like known criminals, basically, and like specific thieves who like specialize in this. Gosh. Yeah.
Keep going.
Now, let me hear, is this your new career path?
Let's end the recording now and talk about this, and then we'll hop back on in a minute. No, just so many. So more creative ideas, not professional ideas, just like writing things like, oh my God, it would be such a fun show to make, or so like anyway.
So basically like the thief on the ground isn't the person who's like going to try and move the art or broker the deal. no wheeling and dealing on their part. They're just like a hired job, basically. It's usually for pretty specific work, it sounds like. And it's usually kind of more on the famous art. And these, as far as I can tell, are isolated cases and maybe not super typical, I guess, but there are examples of them. So, for example, in 2008, a Picasso and I'm going to say this name. There's going to be a lot of artist names that I butcher in this episode. Buckle up. But a Candido Portinari, I think, were stolen from Brazil by people in country at the behest of a Saudi art collector. Oh, good God. So yeah, so like it is worldwide. Yes, also Saudi Arabia, another previous Darkwing episode.
It's all coming back. It's coming full circle. Wait, so this was a painting or a sculpture?
I think paintings.
Okay, gotcha. Okay.
Yeah. And so if you're wondering whether or not this world of like commissioned art heists and black market art dealing and just generally the art real world is like elite and rich as fuck, I feel safe to assume that yes, it like absolutely is. And that's actually probably, again, there's probably a whole podcast about like how that's part of the problem with the art world in general is like like how elite it is.
Yes.
But anyways, on that note of like well-known art, which again, that's I think usually what gets commissioned to get stolen. Unless you're stealing it again, like on commission or for a known buyer, or if you're like extremely, and I cannot emphasize this enough, an extremely smart thief, stealing famous, well-known, or incredibly valuable works of art is actually more than likely like a death note to your grand scheme than a good idea. So basically, a few things happen when well-known art gets stolen. So first, it gets covered like crazy in the media. It doesn't actually tend to happen that often. So when it does, it gets widely reported. And the latest entity that it was taken from, so like a collector, a museum, like an insurer, they make like a huge splash to try and get it back. And since all markets, including the open market and the black market, are, and I know you have thoughts on this, a made-up concept, and that they're just backed by confidence about the value of something because nothing is
speculation.
Yeah, exactly. The more something gets hyped up to be valuable, the more valuable an object will be. So that sounds like a great thing. Like, yeah, it's getting hyped up, which means I'm going to get more money out of this.
Yeah.
But if you aren't a genius criminal, it's by far more than likely that this art will get flagged in your attempts to move or sell the art because everybody will know about it. Yeah. So like, it
because
will
of steps 1 and 2 that you just mentioned before.
Yep, exactly. Like everyone's hyping it up. Everyone's talking about it.
All over the news. Yeah.
All over the news. All of a sudden, like you thought you could move slyly with this art. And again, unless you're like a genius or have those buyers already lined up.
Yeah.
People basically aren't going to want to touch it. They know it's too hot. Like they know people are on the lookout and you're probably not going to be able to turn it over. Yeah. And even more so, if you think that you can get the full value for the art, especially because they will oftentimes when major art gets stolen, they'll like say the estimated value of it in the press. And so a dumb criminal will be like, I'm going to get that much cash for this. But in reality, not even just famous works of art, but apparently in the black market, usually art only goes for about 7 to 10% of its estimated value.
Wow.
Yeah. So the dumb criminals think that they can hold art for like a cash ransom and get that full price for it. And thus they're going to basically, if you're extra greedy for this high value art, it's going to get double flagged. No one's going to want to work with you because you're an idiot and like all that stuff. And a common misconception is that you can actually get cash for your art. So people think, and again, dumb criminals think that museums are basically, like paying a ransom for the art. And while museums will pay for information that like leads to, like if I call them up and it leads to the arrest of someone, I'll get that cash, not the criminal. Yeah. More often than not, there's actually no like like we will not negotiate with terrorists type of
We
thing.
don't, we don't negotiate with heists or, thieves.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And, there's some debate around this because there are like companies that straight up exist to like recover stolen art, which seems super cool.
Yeah, I was gonna say, now that I'm getting career prospects.
Yeah, I would love that job.
I love the crime fighting side rather than the crime causing side.
Yep, exactly. And they technically, and this again would be a whole other podcast, they have introduced some of that cash into the black market, and thus making the debate of like, do ransoms get paid or not? I don't really know, but either way, to even like successfully like extort like a museum or like a collector or insurer, like you have to be a very smart thief. That I will say, again, probably too nuanced for the average art theft criminal. But what most, again, smarter criminals will do with the art instead of trying to get cash is they use it as collateral. So like the stolen work actually becomes a bargaining chip for them. Rather than trying to get cash, they're using it for something like a reduced prison sentence, or it's been added in before on like huge drug deals. Instead of cash, they included this art for it.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like it can be a bargaining piece, because in reality, like, you most likely are not just going to get a lump sum of cash if you steal like a really famous work of art. Again, no one wants to touch the famous art. Again, you have to be very smart to navigate all of this. Our criminal today, who, surprise, surprise, is an art thief.
Oh, that's where you're going with this.
It's not Darkwing Duck the art thief? Huh?
Gosling?
Yeah. Wait a second. Unfortunately for her, she is the former of these types of criminals, not the latter, aka she is not a genius criminal, ready to work the system for all it's worth.
The criminally untalented here.
Yes, she is a dramatic, starving artist who has not only not thought through any of like the nuances of her desperate plan, but like she doesn't even have a plan to begin with.
Awesome.
So, yes.
It's like she's an artist and she hasn't even put out a piece of paper yet.
Exactly. She hasn't even dreamt of the thing yet.
She has no muse.
Yeah, exactly. So today I'm going to tell you about A Brush with Oblivion, which is season 1, episode 49 of Darkwing Duck. It's a tale, obviously, about an art heist. But it's also about the unlikeliest of heroes, should anyone actually believe his story. Oh. So my story today, we're in St. Canard. We're going to start in one of St. Canard's, it seems, many, many poorly lit alleyways in their warehouse district. That are, full of crates and probably barrels. We talked about barrels a lot in Scooby-Doo. They always belong in a mystery and crime story.
It's not a good story without them.
Yep, exactly. So anyways, in this poorly lit alley, we have 2 shady characters. So the first is like this huge muscular dog, maybe like a distant cousin to your criminal in your first Darkwing Duck episode, Noob whatever, who was like the cop dog, security guard. Yeah, who's got like the huge upper half and like tiny waist and legs. Or this is him. Maybe he got out of prison.
Maybe it's New Glimmer.
Like each other.
Hey, yeah. Big dog. That's how many ways can you draw that in a 90s cartoon?
They all look the same. Yeah. But he's got like a turtleneck sweater and like a tweed, like flat, like newsies, like newsboy, like hat on. And he feels like this like gruffy sailor from like the 40s or something.
Okay. Like, chilling in the dark alleyway.
Yeah. In the dark alley. So with him in this dark alley is this kind of like spindly, like kind of looks like strung out duck who's got like spiky, like black Joan Jett 1980s hair. He's got like tattered black clothing. Yeah, exactly. The fight is going fucking down.
Fight is about to go down. Oh shit! Run!
Get out of here! And she is wearing combat boots. She's got like this heavy, made up like smoky eye, and her eyes are like real shifty. And from her satchel, she pulls out this I think maybe like looked like a pharaoh or Egyptian maybe, but a golden statue that's, I don't know, like the size of like a forearm or something. So not huge.
Okay.
And she asks the dog how much she can get for it. And immediately he scoffs at this and says he's not going to give her more than $75 for it. To which she like freaks out and like starts demanding more, telling him he doesn't know anything about art. And clearly like this was not the deal she planned on making. And this like,
I don't know what $75 was worth in 1991, but I'm sure definitely not enough. Yeah, not enough.
Yeah, exactly. Like I am not impressed by that offer.
Too. Yeah.
So she's like, basically calling him like he doesn't know anything about art. This is worth so much more. And because he's like kind of like looking like again, looks like a gruffy like sailor. He's got like kind of like got an accent, all of that stuff. And so she's like, clearly you're a peasant. Like, you don't know anything about this. And then I do want to say this dog is extremely highbrow. And he goes, hey, what can I say, sweets? And this is all direct quote. Okay. If the neo-postmodernist backlash hasn't anchored the pre-anti-realism in its wake, you'd be sitting pretty. And I don't know what that meant, but it's really funny that he said that.
Because it's like in that like New York accent, like that greaser accent. Wow, that's like
hilarious. Scruffed up, and it's just like very highbrow. Actually,
look at all the syllables I can say. Wow,
and again,
that's hilarious.
I don't know what any of that means, but clearly, I think they called in an art history major to the table for this episode, and they're finally using their degree for this episode.
Probably what really happened, one of them had a friend who studied art history and they called them up like, hey, how should I write this line? Just say this. All right, cool. I guess not Venmo back then. I'll send you a check.
Exactly. Well, that person was definitely on retainer for this episode because there are a lot of art terms and puns in this episode.
They called the experts in.
Yeah, I tried to write all of them down because I thought they were all very funny. Again, thus my eventual butchering of many artist names. So anyways, in her frustration, this strung out Joan Jett wannabe yells, what, do I have to steal the Mona Lisa to get any real cash? And the dog dealer just goes, yeah, now we're talking. So,
my God,
this deal, which I now believe to be a directly commissioned deal for this sailor dog or his boss, is officially made. Only problem is that there's already one piece of stolen art with people on the lookout for it, this statue. And now the plan is for her to steal the most famous piece of art. So what could go wrong?
Like the artiest art that ever arted.
Arted, yes. The artiest art of art time. So let's backtrack. So like I mentioned, our criminal today, maybe not the sharpest tool in the shed. She decides to steal this golden pharaoh statue. And also, total side note, non sequitur, but I tried this down. Every time I write statue, which I do multiple times in this episode, I accidentally write statute because of our jobs.
Yes.
Anyways, it like autocorrects constantly.
I 1,000% feel your pain. I mean, say many a times. Yes.
Yep.
There was one time where I was supposed to actually be typing statue. Like for a change, I was not supposed to be typing statute. And I was like, God, I still can't get it. Anyway. Yeah.
Literally every time I was wrong this time.
Thank you.
But correct. This bitch decided to steal it in the middle of the day. So, which maybe it was a Wednesday, maybe it was a slow day, perhaps. No.
But it's still day.
It was school day at the St. Canard Museum, which included an art competition for every single one of the little adorable elementary students in St. Canard and their families.
I wonder what other student might be there. Also, okay. Before you get to that, though, what the fuck? This woman did zero research whatsoever.
Zero.
That is like were any criminals listening right now? CIA, we're helping you out.
You're welcome.
Don't fucking do a heist in the middle of the day unless you've got like a man on the inside or something and it like actually works for the plot. And especially check the calendar. They put calendars online for a reason. Yeah. Go ahead. Sorry.
Full on school day at the museum with a children's art competition. So literally, it's not just like, 500 kids and some teachers who don't give a shit. It's 500 kids and all of their families at this museum. So
it's like the most crowded day in museum history.
Yes. Exactly. So this, as you mentioned, of course, includes the spunky little Gosland Mallard, aka DW's Darkwing Duck's adopted daughter, and DW as his alter ego, Drake Mallard, and Launchpad, who dresses as he always does, no hiding that he's DW's sidekick. And here of note, I do want to flag something we first speculated about, then talked about in last week's episode, specifically because Alexis went and did some recon on this. Basically, we wondered aloud whether or not Drake Mallard and LP are a couple. Yeah. But like, even though this episode doesn't outright confirm it, they both went as like Goslin's dads.
Oh, yeah.
Right?
It's like so like parents. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. It was like family day. They went as her dads, and like Alexis, basically you discovered that the internet agrees with us, and like, they're totally a couple. So
through my nerdy like research and watching YouTube videos about Darkwing Duck, we're not alone in this. A lot of people who have watched the show for a long time, longer than we have, also agree. And next week's episode, we'll build on this theory some more too.
Okay,
so
good.
We're gonna keep riding this all the way up.
Incredible. Yes. Good. And so as I said, it's it's Kids Day. So basically the museum called up all the elementary schools, had all the kids submit a work of art. It's all on display, which I'm sure was so fun and exciting for the families. And there's gonna be a little art competition to see who has the best one. I want to note that Goslin's art is a scene. I think it's like a T-Rex and a Stegosaurus viciously fighting to the death as a volcano explodes behind them.
That's awesome.
And there's this moment where like DW and LP are judging some kid's art, and they're like, what does that say about how they're being raised? And then it slowly pans to Goslin's art of like murder and death and violence. Those are all
what does that say about how she's being raised? She's being raised perfectly. That's what it says. She's got great fathers.
They're super.
She's very creative. She knows her different types of dinosaurs. That's a smart girl right there.
Bam. She understands.
She knows the exact color of blood. She knows how to paint the color of blood. So smart.
So on point. Artiest. So also in attendance, we've briefly mentioned him, but is Goslin's bestie. But I'll elaborate a little bit more on him now. So his full name apparently is Herbert Muddlefoot Jr., aka Honker.
I didn't know it was Herbert. Ooh.
It just adds to this little nerd.
How is Honker a nicer name?
I don't know. How did they get that even from Herbert Muddlefoot Jr.?
Yeah, also some sort of bird that honks.
Yeah, we don't know. Anyway, so Honker, he's like this little tiny twerpy 9-year-old who goes to school with Goslin and his neighbors with the Mallards. He wears these like big, adorable round glasses that are like really thick. He's got a backpack most of the time and like kind of a little nasally voice. And he's clearly the nerd who like keeps the very impulsive Goslin way more grounded. He's this little bookworm. And when digging up more on Honker, there was this note that said, and maybe this is in an episode somewhere, but he's basically allergic to everything. And that's the moment I realized of all the characters, I am Honker. I like nerdy things. I'm not good at most sports. I like to learn. Literally the other day, I gave myself a huge allergic reaction because I was rearranging some flowers in our house, and pollen literally puffed out into my eye, and like I'm super allergic to pollen, and all of me like hives, like my eye was closed. I was actually worried about recording today that my eyes were still gonna be like, I had my camera off on Zoom at work for like 3 days. So
just from like rearranging flowers.
Yeah, because the pollen went directly into my eye.
You used to work around flowers.
Yeah.
How did that go?
I also had like hay fever, like allergic to like grass and shit. And I like to go in the outdoors. So like I am Honker.
You are Honker. Okay.
I am Herbert Muddlefoot Jr.
It's nice to meet you officially.
Thank you.
This is the reintroduction. Yeah, nasally voice.
Thank you. Thank you so much. My glasses.
Yeah, put your glasses on next week.
I should. I'll go get them. So anyways, while this children's art is being judged by like the chief curator of the St. Canard Museum, who's this giant, like pretty enormous pig in a suit, which is this commentary about snobs of the art world? Maybe.
Okay.
I'll leave it up to anyone else to decide. So while the judging is going on, you know, all of the parents are like excited to see if their kid wins. All of the kids are paying attention because they want to be the winner. I'm sure they get like ice cream or something like that. Honker, who's our unlikely hero actually in today's episode, notices something extremely odd. So he's kind of looking around. He's clearly not about just, you know, this art competition. Yeah. And he notices that in the background of American Gothic by Grant Wood, which is the painting of the two farmers, like one with like the pitchfork just like standing and staring, like posing really stiffly, I'm sure during, I don't know, the Great Depression or some shit like that. Didn't look it up. There's movement like in the background of this painting, and he sees like a figure grow bigger and bigger in it until someone literally steps out from like this flat classic work of art into the real world.
Oh gosh. Oh no, that would actually be, I cannot describe how terrifying that would fuck me all the way up. Oh my god! Because at first I thought you just meant like eyes moving. I was like, oh, that's so cute, like Scooby-Doo-ish. No, art's like literally coming to life. Yeah, like someone is moving.
Someone is moving in the background, and then someone, not the two of the painting, someone else steps out of the art, like of the painting, who was not originally in it. The figure takes advantage of the moment in which everyone's turned, paying attention to the art curator, the museum curator, easily opens up a display case, takes that golden statue, looks around briefly, and then steps into another work of art by basically, she waves a paintbrush that temporarily covers the work of art with like this like bubblegum pink color. And then you see the work of art return, in this case, Salvador Dali's Persistence of Memory. And you see her figure running in the painting itself.
Does she like take on the art style of whatever painting she goes in, or it's like the same figure every time?
We will get to that. Right now, it's her. Right now, It's the same figure. And Honker sees all of this happen. Also, side note, apparently, the St. Canard Museum has like a more impressive collection than the Louvre does.
Yeah, so, like why do they have all of this stuff?
Yeah, like this is a literal world-class museum. Yeah. So
also, real quick, I just have to get it out of my system.
Let's hear it.
And then, like, I probably wanted to interrupt again for a minute. But when you say that she's like, this person is jumping in between art, all I can think of is, I don't know if you watched Blue's Clues when you were like really young.
Yeah, of course they did.
Do you can't do, and then they like jump into the I just imagine her like skidooing from art to art.
I mean, like, you're not wrong, but I would say it's a little more of like the Harry Potter vibe of like
that was
things
that's
moving,
probably
which is
the one that I should have gone with. But I just like to imagine the like spinning and skidooing but
Blue's Clues imagine. Was one of my favorite shows as a child. What if we did Blue's Clues as a but all of the like crimes
every
are like,
episode is literally an investigation.
2 + 2, 3 or 4.
Blue, what did you do with your book bag?
Exactly.
I definitely stole Blue's book bag, like really going in, like
coming for you.
Yeah, putting like pictures of people on the board.
The red thread.
I think it was Mrs. Salt or Mr. Pepper.
Those fuckers. Anyways, so Honker rightfully immediately freaks the fuck out, and starts trying to tell his parents. but is shushed by the curator. He's like, kid, it's my time to shine. I'm announcing the winner of this. Shut up, essentially. Until the curator realizes that that golden statue is gone. And what does he do next? The curator, this grown-ass adult, claims that Honker is lying and is in fact the one who stole the statue. And everyone fucking believes him. His parents ground him on the spot. And they're like, stop lying that you saw someone jumping in and out of the paintings. You stole it and put it in your backpack. Like gaslighting this child.
Yes, you stole it and put it in your backpack. But we did not find it in your backpack. But we know you put it in there.
No one checked. But luckily, DW and Gosselin were indeed smart enough to say, it's not in his backpack. He can't be the culprit.
Revolutionary thinking.
Right. That's why they are the detectives of the city.
Exactly. Oh, wow.
But he is not the culprit, but Honker is the kind of the star witness to this crime.
Yeah.
And here's what happens when witnesses are not believed. The crime continues.
Mm-hmm.
So, like I said a second ago, his parents ground him because they still think he's lying about what he saw at the very least. They're, you didn't do it. You saw what did do it, and you're not telling us the truth. So he sits grounded. As he's grounded in his room, this is when the lady from the art meeting is trying to sell the golden statue, which is where we began our story today. So while Honker is sitting again grounded, let's talk about this bold thief who can travel apparently in and out of art. Her name is Splatter Phoenix, which is quite the name, and I will be saying it in full every time.
Okay, good. Thank you.
Because it is a choice.
It sounds equally violent and like badass. I don't.
It's a lot of things.
It's a lot of things. I'm feeling a lot of ways about. I don't know if I like it or not. So
same. That's why I'm just going to say it in full every time.
Cool.
And she describes herself, because of course she does, as we will we'll soon learn. She's got a little bit of an ego. So she describes herself as, quote, a daringly innovative pseudo anti-neo postmodern deconstructionist. I Googled that entire statement
already.
The only things that come up are references to this episode and papers about postmodernism. So whatever she is, which it's way too long to say and hard to say that I'm not going to say it again, doesn't exist. But to her, it does.
I wonder what came first, the episode or that paper on postmodernism.
Right, a bunch of papers being like, let's deconstruct postmodernism.
Let's figure out what the fuck Darkwing Duck was trying to teach us in that one episode.
Yep.
That's what all those papers are about. The episode
I'll go get my PhD. I'll go get like an MFA about this. Does this art exist? Again, according to the internet, this art does not exist. Okay. But an important note, to her, it does.
Yes.
So we'll get even more into her backstory later, including how she's moving through art, ?
Mm-hmm.
But I'm not going to tell you about that quite yet. So
Fair. I'll just continue imagining that she's blue skadooing in and out.
Yeah, exactly. Her name is actually Steve. Not Splatter Phoenix.
Not Splatter Phoenix, yes.
This would happen to Steve after.
He didn't actually go to college. He became an art thief.
Yep, exactly. I mean, I think she might be a college art school dropout, so maybe.
It's possible.
So anyways, so as I mentioned, Gosselin is the more impulsive friend. So she sneaks Honker out of his room, breaks him out from being grounded, and they break back into the museum.
Oh my gosh.
To prove that he's not lying. And so this museum also could be sued for negligence because it's so easy to break into that literally 2 9-year-olds were able to do it. So somewhere that has like some of the world's most valuable art, there's no security.
None whatsoever. Awesome. Yes. Great. Honestly, at this point, they kind of deserve, it sounds like, what they got.
Yeah.
I shouldn't victim blame. I won't victim blame. But in this case,
I'm just gonna say the museum's security, and as we've already seen, the curator kind of suck. So we'll see more of them soon.
Cool. All right.
So as they are breaking back into the museum, I guess to find clues, very Scooby-Doo-esque of them, in fact. They see Splatter Phoenix stepping out of Emmanuel's Letzie's painting called Washington Crossing the Delaware, which is exactly what it sounds like. It's that oil painting, George Washington crossing the Delaware River. It's a storming river. He's got American flag. There's some people around.
Looks all like patriotic and
exactly.
very distinguished. Yes.
Yeah, I'm gonna put all of the art mentioned today, by the way, on Instagram and Twitter, so people can swipe through to see what I'm talking about. So follow us, Satmore and Miss.
And for like a couple of weeks, people are gonna think that we're like an art podcast or like an art heist. But I'm here for it. Anything we can do to get like either get new followers or show our current audience new things. I love it.
We're learning together.
We are. So I am.
Yes. So she, a full-grown adult against 2 9-year-olds, obviously is able to overtake them, basically.
Awesome.
Yes. Specifically, she grabs Goslin and starts to run away with her. I will say also, like, again, of her clearly thinking highly of herself, when she sees these 2 literal children, she's, I guess, trying to impress them, and she yells, "Dialectic dualisms," which I, as a 29-year-old, don't know what that means. So I Googled it, and according to Britannica, a dialectic dualism involves an eternal dialectic or tension of 2 opposed principles, such as, in Western culture, the one and the many, the idea and the matter. So, like, okay, I don't, again, a grown adult who has an education doesn't know what that means. These 9-year-olds are not impressed with you, lady.
No. What?
Anyways.
Like I don't even think she knew what she was saying. She just said 2 big words to sound cool.
That is the epitome of who she is.
Now I'm trying to like break it down. I'm like, is she saying that Goslin and Honker are the dialectic? Like, I don't know. Because they're so opposite, but it's
probably.
It's dumb though, either way. Anyway.
Yes. Either way, it's like one of those things where, like, like at a cocktail party, she's the person using phrases like that to try and impress everyone else, and nobody's buying it.
It's like no one knows what that. She doesn't even know what that means.
She's using it wrong. I don't even know what it means. She's using it wrong.
That's how you know you fucked up.
Yeah, there's that. So not only do we have art theft of that statue, but now I guess a kidnapping, because she has now taken Goslin. So interestingly, she's like running away with Goslin, and she waves her paintbrush again across another canvas, this time across Pablo Picasso's, I don't even know how to say it, Hunerica, which is like an anti-war painting. It's like the long black and white one. It's got like a bull and people yelling. I don't know. It's all like cubist and surrealist. So I don't know what the fuck is in it. But anyways, she like waves the paintbrush across, and instead of stepping through it herself this time, she's able to push Goslin into it, and Goslin becomes part of the painting, including changing her form to be like the cubist, surrealist, like Picasso form.
Whoa! But the Splatter Phoenix still isn't changing when she goes in.
Correct.
Whoa! What kind of witchcraft? What the hell? Burn her!
Yeah, I know. It was bananas. So anyways,
that's terrifying. And
meanwhile, Honker is doing what they should have done at the start, find an authority. So actually, unluckily for him, the first authority he runs into is the curator from earlier, the giant pig in the suit, who, instead of opting to help this child, says, "Save it for the authorities," or "save it for the judge," and calls the authority on him for breaking into the museum.
Oh my gosh.
So at this point, Honker's like, all right, traditional authorities is not the path forward. I gotta go find Goslin's dad, who I know is a superhero because I've helped him out before, Darkwing Duck. So again, smartly, he goes and gets some adults in here. DW and LP show up. They find Splatter Phoenix, immediately give chase because she's just like sulking around the museum, like checking out the different exhibits. which again, I think is showing that she's a dumb criminal, that she doesn't know where her next mark is, because there's a museum at the start of like every fucking, or a map at every start of every museum. She could have picked that up to find what she was looking for, but she's just like creeping around.
You're looking around like, oh, maybe I'll take that one, or maybe I'll take this one. Like, oh, maybe you'll get caught while you're wasting your time, dummy.
This is why usually art heists, as I said in that one Scooby-Doo episode, are super fast and short. Except for the Isabella Stewart Gardner one, which was very long, and that's why it's so sus. Anyways, so DW obviously enters as he sees her by saying, I am the terror that flaps in the night. I am the tube of candemonium, or something like that, yellow, that's impossible to open. I am Darkwing Duck. Cadmium?
Impossible to open and impossible to say.
I'm sure it's easy to say, and I just don't know English.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't either.
Someone's going to correct
colors. Tell us what he's saying.
Yes, thank you. So now, just very briefly, we're going to describe the first chase scene in which precious and incredibly famous, valuable art is just like thrown across the museum as DW and LP try to stop Splatter Phoenix. But the main reason I'm going to describe this chase scene, or I guess how I'm going to describe it, is for all of you MFA holders out there and art history majors out there, because it's full of punny and sometimes pedantic lines.
Oh, awesome.
So I'm just going to read through some of these a little bit here. So Splatter Phoenix. Again, this is also helping build kind of like who she is a little bit here. Splatter Phoenix says, what havoc spawns when art appeals to middle brow taste? Okay, bitch.
Middle
Splatter
brow.
Phoenix. Yeah, the verisimilitude of my endeavors is far beyond the grasp of your petty little bourgeoisie minds.
Oh my gosh.
Okay.
Crazy that the most recognizable word there was like bourgeoisie.
I know.
I hate
like,
this
come
woman
on, bitch.
so much. Yeah.
Okay, the next few are from DW. You misguided Duck Angelo, like Michelangelo, the Italian Renaissance sculptor and painter who did Statue of David and the creation
or the
of
Teenage
Adam.
Mutant Ninja Turtle.
Yes, exactly. There's going to be a couple of those that you'll recognize, I think, throughout.
Okay.
Also, the creation of Adam, when like the fingers of Adam and God are touching on the Sistine Chapel ceiling.
Yeah.
Another GW. I have you now, you wretched Renoir, aka a late French 1800s impressionist painter. DW. You rotten Rembrandt robber. Rembrandt, the Dutch Golden Age painter, an artist of different media. DW, you've got a screw loose, Lautrec. You're out of your mind. Lautrec, apparently a French painter famous for works depicting things like Moulin Rouge. To which Splatter Phoenix responds, so was Van Gogh, which is a pretty good point. Of Van Gogh also was out of his mind. So that's 1 point nice. I will give to Splatter Phoenix.
Good. Okay.
The rest go to DW.
But some pretentious things can be funny.
Exactly. Yeah. So as they're running through this apparently enormous museum where the curator and guards are not noticing the fact that people are like screaming puns at each other when running through the museum.
Like hear shit like being knocked over and thrown.
Yes. Yeah, just
quiet night here. Yeah.
We better look for that small child who broke in here. All this other shit. So, anyways, they finally come to the room which has the prized possession that Splatter Phoenix was there to find for her commission job, the Mona Lisa. So, for reference, for those who don't know, the Mona Lisa is a painting by Da Vinci, which, according to my classic 15 seconds of Googling in Wikipedia, is so famous, one, inherently because of who Da Vinci already was in the art world. He was already sought after and famous when he painted it. She's doing this like 3/4 turn towards the audience, which was novel for the time, and then everyone copied. And then just like general hype around him built it up more. There's also like way more in-depth reasons and like conspiracies as to why it's so famous. But I do want to note what I think is the most significant reason that it's famous is that Beyonce and Jay-Z filmed a music video, closed down the Louvre for their music video. I think it was Ape Shit off of their Carter's album. And they had a whole scene in front of it.
It was not at what year did that album come out?
like a couple years ago.
Like the Mona Lisa wasn't famous until 2018.
Beyonce made it famous.
As she does with everything she touches.
Yes, exactly. Go look up that music video. It's great. Also, I want to say the Mona Lisa, I've seen the Mona Lisa in person and it's like super small. There's way cooler things in the Louvre, which you will see when you watch that music video. Beyonce.
I was gonna say, I've been to, we're gonna both sound super pretentious right now. I don't even give a fuck. I don't even care because listen, but Grace and I have both been to the Louvre. Totally not impressed.
No,
the Mona Lisa. No. First off, it's probably not even the real fucking Mona Lisa when you go there and see it. It's definitely a mock-off or a mock, whatever, stolen one, or who knows. And there are like literally it's the least impressive thing in the Louvre. Yeah. I don't care. You guys are probably listening like, wow, these bitches,
these jackasses, like they're just as elitist as fucking Splatter Phoenix.
Elitist. Look, we're not really that elitist. We're just real. Like I've been to small local museums that have paintings more impressive than that.
Yeah. Also,
it's just the fact that it was Da Vinci and like the novelty of like you said, turning and slight looking like, oh, that was so new. And also because Mona Lisa wasn't like a miraculous looking person, like just this average looking lady, like
just look
at
the
picture is not big. Like you could easily carry it in your hands. Like it's not a big picture. So you can't even get that close to it unless you're in the room for like an hour waiting for people to like weed out. Not impressive.
Like, it's behind this like plexiglass, like all of this stuff. I was there and saw it as a side story. Like I looked at it, I was like, this is fucking it. And then I turned around. I don't know, obviously if it's still there or not, but there's this like incredible, like full, like museum wall like, sized mural work of art. And the only security around that, it was like this small, like railing. And there was literally a kid sitting on the railing, like kicking his feet, like leaning back and forth. I was like this child's gonna fall into this painting and like ruin it and no one
like
gives a shit because the Mona Lisa.
So anyway, we pretty much just no one here needs to go see, or no one listening or watching needs to see the Mona Lisa now, because I think we've done a better job depicting it. In fact, I'm sure that you and I both have pictures like on our phones and or on our computers. Perhaps we will like post the pictures that we've taken of the Mona Lisa so that you guys will see all that you need to see and show you just how it's like, oh, that's it.
That's it.
If you've not seen it.
I'll post, actually, if you have one of those, send it to me.
I will.
I'll post a picture of Jay-Z and Beyonce next to it.
The real reason why that painting is famous.
Yes. So anyways, the Mona Lisa in the St. Canard Museum is exactly the same as the real one, except that it's a dog and instead of a human, and it also has like huge, like Kardashian sized lips, like bright red lips on it, which I think they did because of, instead of stealing the whole painting, maybe because she was on the move, with another wave of her paintbrush, she somehow again waves the paintbrush and those giant Kardashian lips are gone from the Mona Lisa. And they're in her like cut off leather hands. And she looks at it and cackles and says, "This will solve all of my troubles." She does another wave to this like Cubist painting by Georges Braque, who developed Cubism or something like that, and jumps into it. But at this time, as like that, how I mentioned that like pink paint goes over it for a second. While that pink paint is still there, DW and LP are smart and fast enough to leap in after her. And in this case, they do change into the Cubist style art.
Okay, but she still has not.
Correct. She still has not.
So and here, anyone but her so far will change. Okay, got it.
And here, dear, probably confused listener, is where we get to learn how the fuck she's moving in and out of the artwork in a classic villain monologue.
Yes, she does explain her
evil
monologues,
baby.
I love it.
So
tell us what's on your mind, Splatter Phoenix.
Splatter Phoenix, let's hear it. So remember how she's a, quote, daringly innovative pseudo anti-neo postmodern deconstructionist? How could we forget?
Things.
Yes. So according to her, critics said that her style of art, which was all of those things I just said, was too experimental, which I think means her art was just too fucking weird or like just bad. And that like she's kidding herself.
It's too bad. It's the latter.
Yeah, it's just like I think you say
bad.
It's too experimental is like the highbrow critic way of being like, this is bad art. You're doing a bad job.
They actually just told her it was bad, but she interpreted it as experimental. Like
experimental.
No, they called it bad, but
they
didn't understand my experimenting. I just had theories beyond their artist knowledge.
Yes, I 1,000% think it's that of like she is kidding herself, and she just thinks like woman. Yeah, that she is like, this artistic genius and nobody understands her because of that. But as it turns out, her experimentation with her art did actually lead to something. So specifically in her art and experimenting, I'm personally in this whole monologue, I've like was picturing her in like either like a San Francisco or like a New York City, like Soho studio apartment with just like, I don't know, like crazy, like experimental music that's really bad going on everywhere and just like splattering paint constantly. But part of her art was mixing chemical compounds. So I'm also picturing it's like kind of a lab. I guess
sounds dangerous now.
Yes, there's a lot of hazards, I would say, which is probably why she looks strung out, because she's constantly taking in those paint fumes. She's huffing that paint a lot.
It's fucking up those brain cells.
Yeah. So in her experimentation, actually, it led these different chemical experiments, I think, with paints and materials, led to this genius creation of a new chemical that essentially can control dimensions. So that's what she dips her paintbrush into, and thus can control art and dimensions.
Is this like DMT? Is that what it's called? She's like dropping tabs of acid.
She's just fully out on angel dust. Just like, what dimension am I in?
I'm traveling dimension. She's just like walking down the street. Everyone's looking at her like, the fuck is wrong with it? Like, don't touch me.
Your paintbrush off me, lady.
Puts her hand on like a poster on like a brick wall, and like, I'm in the painting.
I am Salvador Dali.
Yeah.
It's like the episode ends with like, you know, like those like stories that end, it's like, and then I woke up from the dream. It's like, and then I sobered up in rehab.
And then I found myself in rehab.
I mean, you'll go back and watch it. She could do some rehab.
It's kind of, maybe that's the MO. Okay, guys.
Yeah, that's really the vibe, we'll say. Yeah, I think cool. Acid, DMT, I think anything, PCP, like shrooms,
angel dust. Yeah, honestly, a cocktail of all of the above.
And in the 90s,
like this shit, an art student, like, come on.
Yeah, the show is going strong.
That's what they were really trying to get across with this episode. You said they made her look like strung out, like Joan Jett.
I mean, we had like some like, you know, 60s and 70s, like acid peaks going on, like 80s cocaine,
90s Hyde Ashbury, like
90s was like things. The hard shit coming in of like like PCP, heroin.
This was like crack is whack, like going even beyond. Yeah,
they did not have a DARE class come to their art school.
No, DARE was not with it. They were not hip enough for these hipster art students.
Nope. So basically, so that's how she can literally move in and out of art and control it, is that she can control different dimensions. So that's why she can move through it. That's why she could take the lips of dog Mona Lisa off. Dog Elisa. So instead of yet again, like many of the villains in Darkwing Duck, trying to monetize on what is a genius invention, she instead leaned into that starving artist trope, which I think is such bullshit. And somehow She says that she's depleted all of her finances in trying to show her art to the world, which I will say, maybe that does make sense. Like, I don't know enough about the art world, but I have to imagine that to be an artist without like elite rich parents, it's probably kind of hard to like make big in the art world.
Yeah.
Maybe she's like, maybe she was like depleting her finances to have that studio apartment. Maybe she was trying to roll in those elite circles to get that recognition she deserved. We'll actually touch on, we'll circle back to this idea at the very end with some wild speculation. So yes, after hearing basically, because she does like go on and on about basically that like, again, no one understands my art, but also LOL, I am super, like literally at one point at the end of the monologue, I write this down, I should have, but I think her ending line goes, in other words, I'm broke. Flat out.
Like she just says
she ain't
it
got
like,
money.
That's what it is. Yeah.
I'm broke as fuck. So
welcome to America, lady.
Yeah, exactly. And so as she was monologuing, I think she realized like just how indeed depleted and desperate that she was. And that instead of, she had been commissioned to steal the Mona Lisa. Instead of giving it to the guy who was going to buy it, who tried to gyp her before, she suddenly realizes that she can hold these lips for ransom. Which again, does ransom exist in the art world? So not like the way she thinks.
Right.
So the actual value of the Mona Lisa, based on some Googling I did, has some different sources, but the common figure I saw hovers more or less around $900 million.
Oh my gosh. Now we sound even more pretentious for our earlier comments, but I stand by them. That's overpriced.
So much so. So now
overpriced.
Since insurers and museums don't pay ransoms, I doubt that they would pay that price or anywhere close to it, nor do if she again turned towards the black market instead of trying to hold it for ransom. That shit would be way too hot for any criminal to touch. And even if there was a criminal dumb enough to buy it off of her, because again, as explained earlier, they're like, that's way too hot. Like, we're not that stupid. But it will only go for at max 10% of this value. So in this case, if it was 10% of 900 million, she would get 90 million, which is still a lot of fucking money. However, she just has the lips, not the full painting.
So it's only like,
it's like 5%.
30th.
Of the
she'll
painting.
Get $90 for the lips.
I will say I did some quick math, and by quick math I mean went to like a percentage calculator and said the actual value of the lips is like 45 million. So if you're only gonna get 10% at best, she's still gonna get like 4.5 million for the lips. That'd be a pretty good haul. If she can be clever enough to move the most high-profile painting in the world, which I honestly don't believe that she can.
No.
Especially because I think she, as we've seen, is way too egotistical to negotiate a deal. So I think she would stick to the expected price / the expected value of the entire Mona Lisa at $900 million for just the pair of lips. And if anyone offered lower, I think she would walk. And I think this is, I believe, full-heartedly, like she would never be able to do this type of deal because of her, like, because of how egotistical she is, that like clearly she already thinks she's better than everyone else. She thinks she understands art more than anyone else. And thus all of her opinions on art are the best and the only opinions, and thus what price she says goes.
Goodness gracious.
So
up for failure.
Yeah, exactly. As I said at the start, what could go wrong with the plan? Oh wait, there's no plan.
Oh,
no plan.
I was going to say everything, but there has to be a plan for shit to go wrong.
So, no plan to begin with.
Awesome.
So now, an actually pretty fun painting to painting chase ensues because every painting they jump to, like DW and LP, morph into the style of the artist, which is very fun. So as all of that is happening, you may be thinking to yourself, where's Hunker? Like, Goslin's still stuck in a Picasso. LP, DW, and Splatter Phoenix are also running in paintings. What's Hunker up to?
Yeah. What is Hunker up to?
I'm glad you asked. So we come back to the, again, gaslighting of a witness, namely a child. And we get a good look at the St. Canard justice system. Because...
or lack thereof.
As Hunker watches everyone run from painting to painting, he approaches the Salvador Dali painting, just as the curator enters the room. And the curator, who had already said, save it for the judge, literally arrests Hunker. And the next scene we see, Hunker is sitting in a jail cell, like a slab bench with chains holding it up and like prison bars. And like Hunker, because he's a 9-year-old, like he has his little backpack on and his feet are just like kicking because they can't touch the ground.
He's like waiting for his parents to pick him up. Does he have handcuffs on?
I don't think so anymore.
Okay,
he's fully in the cell at least.
True. Yeah, he's not a threat to the officers at this point.
Yeah, the threat's been neutralized because he's 9.
Oh my gosh,
it's pretty precious.
Kid. I would like yes, but also like it would be super traumatizing in the real world, like a 9-year-old like locked in a cell, a jail cell, like. Exactly. Where are my parents? My friend has just been like trapped and kidnapped. Her dads are also about to get like killed, probably. Yeah. Cool. My parents will be here any moment now.
I hope. Also, now they're going to know that I got out from being grounded.
Yeah. Oh no, I'm really going to be in trouble now. He's like more afraid about being grounded than by the current situation he's in. Yeah.
Wow. So, he is apparently able to make bail, but he does sneak right back out into the museum and is actually able, again, the perfect timing to jump into a painting behind Splatter Phoenix, who's still being chased by DW and LP. Oh, actually, at this point, DW and LP had gotten to Gosling's. They passed through the Picasso and grabbed her.
Yeah.
Apparently able to break her free. But they, because they can only move when Splatter Phoenix like paints kind of like a portal between the paintings.
Okay. Yes. Thank you for explaining that. Because I was wondering, I was like, how are they? Okay, cool. Sorry.
So that's how, which is important because they jumped into this next painting as Hunker was sitting in jail, and she waved the brush, turned the painting alive, and then she herself jumped out of it and like closed the portal.
Oh.
And it happened to be Gosling's painting of battling dinosaurs and exploding volcanoes.
Oh, shit. I thought you were going to say it happened to be the same painting Gosling was in. Nope. No, that's even worse. Fuck. Have fun with that one, you guys.
Yep. And so this is why Hunker, our true hero and criminal who's done hard time, that's made him more of a hero, though. Not all criminals are bad. They turn out to be good, like Hunker here. Yeah.
He's reformed.
Exactly. So while they're off battling dinosaurs, so he gets back out of jail, out of his house, back to the museum. Again, he's able to sneak behind Splatter Phoenix into a Salvador Dali painting. And he's being really smart. He's kind of like creeping around in this painting, like trying to make sure he's not caught. And it turns out this is where she's been kind of like hiding out. And he finds this magical compound, like this chemical concoction and more paintbrushes. So this already hardened criminal steals that shit without her noticing.
Let's go.
So
put those criminal experiences to use.
Exactly. Like he learned a thing
that
or two
intelligence,
those couple hours in prison.
He's a smart criminal. He's mostly smart with a sprinkle of misdemeanor thrown on there. So
he's a juvie. It'll get erased from his record. It's probably fine.
Might as well, get it out of your system now, kid.
Yeah, exactly. So
don't actually do that. Any kids listening to this podcast, do not get it out of your system. Just don't do it.
Ever. So Hunker, this is how he learns, kind of like the dimensions and everything it can do. And that he now, because he has the chemical compounds, that he can move through all the paintings.
Good. He's got the DMT now.
Yes, exactly. Now Honker is tripping balls as well.
Yeah.
It's the theme of this episode.
What an eventful day for this kid.
Honker has had more life experiences than most adults do.
He's
All
like,
right,
I love hanging out with
all
Goslin.
relate, but like jail time and DMT.
all in
on the
one. Hopping into paintings, defeating a criminal, shoot, saving a superhero.
Which may be like the real crime at the center of this whole thing is like illicit drug dealing and like getting a minor high.
Yeah, that's actually what's happening. Like the art stuff. Yeah, because they're so high, the art stuff actually isn't even happening.
They're just like
tripping balls,
moving through,
walking through the streets of
a
St.
borough in
Bernard.
New York. Yeah, exactly.
Anyway,
so he is able to go find LPDW and Goslin because again, he's got the magic power now, aka drugs. They're able to chase down Splatter Phoenix into a Jackson Pollock painting, which is like that splatter art.
Yeah.
They corner her because boom, bitch, like we all have that same dimension controlling power. This bitch, for as much as dumb as she is, doesn't even hesitate to start building her case that this is self-defense, that she is now backed into a corner, which I will pause it and we can loop back to in a second here because I'm almost finished. I think her real backstory is that she is actually like a rich, spoiled brat, but like got cut off of her allowance from her family because the fact that she immediately is like, no, I'm the victim here. Nothing's my fault. This is self-defense. Very much gives me like rich brat vibes of like, now that I'm in a corner, let me turn it around on you.
Exactly.
I'm going to do this. So my mommy and daddy's lawyers can get on it type of thing. But this bitch, even as she's like claiming self-defense, again, she can control dimensions and create things. She paints a bomb, gets ready to throw it. And Honker, who again has the same power now, paints a literal flaming arrow and bow, shoots it, and the bomb explodes while still in Splatter Phoenix's hands.
Oh, Honker, savage. Awesome.
Honker saw some shit in jail that night. I bet Honker, if he rolled up his little like nerd sleeve, has some tats.
Like a full sleeve. He's like, this was from Nam.
It like zooms in a Honker's face. He like when he removes his glasses are so big, but if he moves it up, you see him in his cheek, he's got the teardrop.
Or like a scar.
In jail.
He has like a scar in one of his eyes, so he actually only like can see out of one eye.
Yeah. Exactly.
Get a teardrop tattoo coming out of that messed up eye.
Someone in prison for that teardrop tattoo for sure. So once again, we don't actually see what happened to her. I assume she lived because we both see the lips returned to the Mona Lisa, and we either like hear DW say, maybe he says it straight to her or like yells at her, I can't remember. The only art you'll be painting is license plates in prison. Which is pretty good.
That is good. That's funny.
And also similar to like past criminals who that we've covered that are very egotistical artists. I have to imagine that her getting sent to the St. Canard prison for the criminally untalented is crushing to this bitch.
Yes.
So all of those different things that I said we'd circle back on that I'd love your thoughts on and the audience's thoughts on. So like drop some comments, folks.
Like, share, subscribe as well if you haven't already. And then drop a comment.
If Splatter Phoenix was an artist in 2022 instead of 1992, do we think she would have had to sink this low to make her art known? Because in the world of social media, artists around the world can be seen by so many people without the like need for elite like New York City or St. Canard or Paris galleries and critics to acknowledge their worth. So my opinion is that because of social media and obviously algorithms and shit, y'all heard us talk about them, I think she would have found her niche crowd for whatever the fuck she describes herself as and could have found some success there. as an influencer, especially if she was good at TikTok, especially if she had rich parents to like help, you know, get her some sponsorships or something. But what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I agree. I get what you're saying. My only disagreement is that she just has such an awful personality. It sounds like that, like, even if her art could get some like niche audience, she would start using all of those big words. And it's like, yeah, people might like to look at what she's putting out there, but they'd be like, what the fuck is this like pretentious bitch talking about? So yeah, there probably is like an audience that for sure would grab onto that and would love that. But I'm glad that you also asked, like, modern times, where would she be? Because this whole episode, I was thinking, modern times, I feel like she would be doing like trying to get into the NFT game or something.
I almost, when I was like doing my research at the beginning, like explaining art theft and like that type of stuff, I thought about mentioning NFTs, and then I was like, fuck no, I'm not getting into that.
I'm glad you didn't, because as you were saying it, I put a note in my phone like, NFTs, don't forget to bring up NFTs, and how it's literally just a fraud scheme that's like taking over the art world and like independent art and whatnot now. So I imagine her doing some conglomero of this and like Scooby-Doo and the cyber chase, where she's like going through the blockchain and like grabbing other people's NFTs and like, 100%. This is mine now, aka just copy and pasting people's shit.
Yeah, exactly. I also or as to say, the counter argument to myself as well is that, because this is kind of where I'm split with like, would she be famous on social media? I think that she would also think she's too good for social media. And that people and artists on social media, I think she would think we're below her. And like, again, the bourgeoisie, like,
it's pedantic. I don't put my things on TikTok. My things belong in the Louvre or on the walls of like Wall Street hedge fund managers, like in their houses, their penthouses.
Saudi princes,
exactly.
Like that type of shit. There we go. That was kind of like a convoluted journey and story, but like, after I watched it, I did debate to myself. I was like, I don't know, like, how to even talk about this one that's not just a straight up recap, but I just love art crime so much that I was like,
I love it. Keep it coming. I'm sure that we will do more shows with art related crimes, because so far we're 2 for 2. So
I'm going to try and find with everything we watch.
That's actually now going to be our guiding light for what shows we talk about.
Do they have
is there an art crime related episode? If so, okay, fine. We'll do it.
Okay, fine.
No, I love it though. I learned a lot today. Not only different artists, but also just different art crimes, heists,
all of the above.
I love it.
Sweet. Well, between now and next week, who should our lovely listeners inform this? I never know how to fucking say this.
Me neither. But
who should they tell?
Who should they tell about this podcast? It just it doesn't flow off the tongue. Damn it, just tell somebody. No, so this week I say go to the museum.
Nice.
If you're like me and live in a city where there are a lot of free museums, then pop on in there one day and tell the curator or whatever docent is perhaps standing around looking for someone to talk to, because apparently while people love doing those jobs, they can sometimes be boring. So if someone's just kind of standing around waiting for a badass kid to like jump over those velvet rope things and fuck up some piece of art or whatever exhibit, just stop, talk to them, say, hey, how's it going? You should watch Saturday Morning Mysteries. They talk about museums all the time. Boom. You'll love it.
Excellent. Well, I think while you're at the museum, especially if it's an art museum, find the most pretentious looking people there and walk up next to them and be like, yes, these dialectic dualisms of this artist really deconstruct the postmodern era. By the way, you want some real art? Listen to Saturday Morning Mysteries.
Were you impressed by the thing I just said there? You know where I heard it? Saturday Morning Mysteries.
Go take a listen. You're welcome.
And you'll too understand what this art means after you watch that or listen to that podcast.
Yes, it's very experimental, but in a good way.
Not bad, I swear, just experimental.
Yes. All right, great. Well, we'll see y'all next week. Thanks for tuning in.
Bye.
Bye.
Thanks for tuning in to Saturday Morning Mysteries.
If you enjoyed this episode, please share, rate, review, leave us a like, and drop a comment. We post episodes every Saturday and bonus tune tangents whenever we feel like it. So please subscribe so you don't miss the shenanigans.
And if you want to follow us on YouTube, click the bell under the YouTube subscribe button to receive notifications when new videos are posted.
And if you want to subscribe to the podcast, we have no idea what you're listening to us on, so just hit the big subscribe button on whatever app you're using. We believe in you.
Give us a follow on Twitter and Instagram at SatmornMist, all the abreves, and let us know if you have any episode or show requests by emailing SaturdayMorningMysteries@gmail.com.
Thanks to Jenna Kendall for the logo design and to Ava Sakiki for the music used during this week's episode.
See y'all groovy kids next week on Saturday Morning Mysteries.